Mark Chi, one of our teachers, one of my teachers, one of your teachers, some of you have studied with him. He teaches mostly from this tradition called Kashmir Shaivism, which is quite exceptional in terms of how much they've studied just life, you know. So the other day he said something very beautiful. He said, perception is the goddess itself. You know? And that's pretty much as profound as it can get in terms of healing meditation. When you realize that the divine itself is the expression of, or expresses itself through your senses, then you realize the power of your senses, the power of choosing and being aware of where you are directing your attention to. You know, thought being one of the senses. Like we talk about the 5 physical senses, and then there's a 6th sense, which is just the, in this tradition, is the, you know, thought, like mental constructs and sensations. So I'm going to read from page 81 now. You don't have to read the book. Here in page 21, there's first actually, let's do first these. That in page 79, one of the practices that I included here is not a practice that you have to do separate, but it's just again a way of observing, like observing how others breathe. You know, this is extremely extremely beautiful and extremely profound at the same time, and it gives you a sense of tenderness. You know, like there was I lived in Los Angeles for many years. I went there to college, and I had been there for a few years before actually I went into acupuncture school. And I had a friend of mine who worked for TV in Spain, and he was the producer of one of the shows in Spain. And one day he called me. You know, he wake me up, you know, very early in the morning. He said, "Hey, the person who used to do this, I don't know how you call it, this slot of Hollywood information." He quit it, and you know, it's like a 90-second thing, and they pay a lot of money. You want to do it? And I say, I've never done anything for TV, but if you think I can do it, I'll do it. You know. So I say, sure. So just get a camera, and you know, with these digital cameras. And so I happened to find another guy who was from Barcelona, who was in Los Angeles, who was studying film. You know. So I told him, okay, we did together. We shared the money. It was super beneficial for both of us because we both needed money at the time. You know. So and it did the job. They were happy in Spain. And so one of the little documentaries that we did, I don't know what would be, and there was this guy in Hollywood. In Hollywood, there's a lot of weird people, okay, that make Hollywood very colorful. And so there was this guy, I don't remember his name. He used to drive around Hollywood with one of these old cars with his name and some, like, a lot of decorations on top. It was like one of these things you see in Hollywood. Okay. So I told my friends that we have to interview this guy, see what he's about, you know. And so we managed to contact him, and I think we met him at a coffee or something. His car was parked, so we walked to the coffee place. We see him there. He gave us a card, and so we called him. And obviously, he wanted some money. Everybody wants money, obviously. So he needed money to you know, pay his bills. And so we gave him a little money, and we had an interview. And then I was doing the camera. My friend who had more experience was doing the wording, and he was kind of the host. And so then the guy told us, do you want to go for a drive in the car? Okay. So I said, sure. You know, so my friend says, you go. He's too crazy for me. I say, okay. So I get in the car, and the first thing I observe, he sits, and in the quietness of the car, you know, like it's him and I before we start driving, the first thing I observe is how he breathes, you know, his breath. Okay. Very, you know, I didn't notice before. I mean, I didn't pay attention when we were in the car, just him and I. Okay, this is a moment of intimacy, you know, like pretty much all these, very vulnerable. You know, you get into somebody's car and say, oh, his breathing was very elaborate, very like, you know, like breathing. He had a difficult time breathing. So I think he just got anxious being, but I don't know what happened exactly, but, and then I saw he had a bunch of these orange bottles of medication that you have here in the US. We don't have those in Spain, you know, so, so then I realized, oh, this person is actually in a very intense state of suffering, you know. So I kept observing his breath as, you know, we're just talking a little bit and in the car and, you know, making sure he was driving straight, and he was driving okay. And immediately there was this deep tenderness in my heart towards him. I said, oh, wow, he is suffering, you know. So I always remember that, and that experience, just, it was connecting to his breath, seeing how he was observing, that I could really understand how, you know, or my impression of how he was feeling. Okay? So this is part of why I wrote this here. And so I encourage everybody, you know, and this is not something that you announce, or this is not something that you, you know, disclose in any way, or then you correct people and tell them, okay, if you breathe this way or that way. But just when you're with others, or, you know, when you're with your puppy, or, you know, just see how, connect to the breath. It's not you have to connect. I mean, the way you connect is just by listening to it and observing how they're breathing. And when people come at the office, you know, and they lay down, or even when they're in a chair, that's one of the first things that I observe is like, how is this person's breath? Okay, because it provides, you know, quite a lot of clinical information. It provides also information of how the mind is feeling. So I always remember that story. It was very, very touchy, like to, you know, see somebody who externally, you know, was such a parade. But then when you went there inside, say, oh, look at this breath, you know, look at this person might be going through. And I have done this many, many times, especially in situations of people that I don't know so much. When, you know, remember I was also helping, I was living in North Carolina, and I was doing some translation, Spanish translation. And there was a big person at the University of Northern Carolina in Chapel Hill that needed some translation for some of the workers that were Hispanic. There had been some issues. So this person came to get me at the you know, lobby, and then we went on the elevator, and it was just her and I in the elevator. And the same thing, you know, this, you know, she had a very important role there, and, you know, there was, you know, a lot of people there, everybody like kind of bowing to her, and I'm with her in the elevator. How does this person breathe? You know, and you could see the tenderness. Okay. So all this to say that this is extremely precious, especially with people who are presenting themselves as rough, or you know, or that seem to be very, very tough. Okay, so just observe this. Is a very good practice, because the breath in them, the breath in you is the same breath, is the divine breath. So I encourage you to observe that.